everyone. Happy Friday. How are you? Let me know if you can hear me. I see you made it, GRTV. Thank you for staying up. I know you're in the UK. Hi, James. How are you? So my cousin got me this very obnoxious wine glass years ago that can fit an entire bottle of wine. This is too much. I'm not about to drink all this, but I made like bootleg sangria because I had leftover what was that, like Snoop Dogg rosé, which the first sip of it was really good. Hey, Jace. And then after that, it was really sweet. So I mixed that. There's some blueberries in there. And then some of the Black Girl Magic Sauvignon that I had. Or was it Sauvignon? Whatever I think it was the red one, the red wine. Thank you. How are y'all doing? Happy Friday. So I'm assuming you guys can hear me. Okay, good. So today should be very interesting. Well, look at you. Well, I appreciate it. So hopefully this is good. Rachel. Oh, I didn't even see what she did this week. So we can definitely talk about that, James. I saw what she did a few weeks ago with her foolishness, but child. So today we are going to talk about bad bosses, about the entertainment industry. Oh, good for you, Jace. About the entertainment industry and toxic industries in general. So happy Friday. Feel free to vent. We're going to have like a collective venting about this, which is very interesting. And I finally figured out how to properly do the presentation without being like, oh, I don't understand what's happening. That's why I was a little bit late, to be honest. So this is our agenda for the day. Chipotle apparently is allegedly a bad boss as well. So Chipotle is going to get thrown in here. Sorry to you if you love Chipotle. Qdoba is much better, just going to be honest. And so is Moe's in the South. Moe's in New York is nasty, but Moe's like in the South is very good. So we're going to talk about the Chipotle lawsuit. We're going to talk about Scott Rudin and the computer, the stapler, and all the things that he decided to throw at people at work. In general. And then we're going to talk about like just a bunch of things about, like hostile workplace. I just basically made a collage of bad bosses, to be honest. So then you guys can like call in. And then we're going to talk about, so like corporate life in general. I think it's important to kind of go over that. All these people saying like, I'm going to take accountability. Accountability is not the same thing as consequences. So we're going to talk about that. And then we are going to do a vent and sip. Taco Bell is better. Listen, college me love Taco Bell. I see so much Taco Bell at very odd hours of the night, as you do in college. Hi, Kareen. How are you? Hi, Don. Okay, cool. So let's get into Tijuana Flats is great. Dang, now I want Mexican food. Or, this is like not real Mexican food. We all know this. But now I want some. All right. So let's talk about Chipotle really quick. So Chipotle decided that over the course of a few years, New York City is now suing them. So basically over the course of a few years, they have allegedly, because remember, it's just a complaint. These are all allegations. They have allegedly not paid their employees for sick leave, not allowed their employees to go on sick leave. Allegedly, New York employees are supposed to get 40 hours of sick leave minimum. They're giving them 24 hours, which that's only about 3 shifts if you work an 8-hour shift, which, wow, my math was quick for once. They apparently you're supposed to give people 2 weeks notice for like their scheduling. They were scheduling people like right beforehand, which my only question to all of this, all that money that you're making from this extra guac and you can't give people, you know what? That's my only question. All of these corporations make so much money because they nickel and dime everyone else, which is a problem, which is completely a problem. So we're going to see how that lawsuit plays out. Apparently, the New York City sued them actually a few years ago and told them like, hey, get your act together. We'll pull the lawsuit. It's fine. And they came back and were like, oh, they still haven't gotten their act together. Okay, cool. They have, according to the complaint, 6,000 violations of New York City labor code. 6,000. How? That would lead me to believe that there's lots of non-compliance going on. Chipotle responded and said that the complaint is over-exaggerated and that they don't respond to pending litigation. Interesting. Very interesting. Completely agree. Greed and lack of humanity. They don't care about anybody. And not just them, just corporate in general, which we're going to talk about today. So That's my 2 cents on that. And then again, so if this is your first live that you're coming to, this is going to be like the same, like how Wine and Lawsuits Wednesdays used to run. So like quick run throughs of things. And then if you want, we can like talk about something more in depth. I figured today would actually probably spend the most of the time on like corporate workplace and Scott Rudin. Since that is what's going on. So for those of you that aren't familiar, this is Scott Rudin, looking lovely, I guess, looking disgruntled as he tends to look sometimes. And if you are not familiar with, so NYC sued Chipotle. So that's what's happening right now. So if you're not familiar with Scott Rudin is one of the most well-known producers in Broadway and also well-known, very known in the industry. I was very familiar with the fact that he has admitted to it, is not kind to his employees. And that's not telling the truth. He's awful to his employees. He has allegedly thrown computers at them, staplers at them. I remember when that happened. Which is assault, by the way, which is assault when you throw things at people. It is assault. One of his former assistants unfortunately committed suicide because of the constant beratement that happened from Scott Rudin against him. That's what his family said was the reasoning. And I think it's important to take a step back before we like completely assess Scott Rudin and the mess. And also just in case, like, because I'm not like a big Broadway person, but he did produce like West Side Story. So, things that you are actually like most likely familiar with, but even if you don't know like who's the face behind it, is him. The man is very rich. So before we get into that, I think it's important to kind of talk about, when you work exactly, Kareen, why isn't he in jail is ridiculous. And that's the point. So when you work in entertainment, I think there's a lot of misconceptions about working entertainment. And I've been like very honest with y'all about it. So I think if you're following me, you have very little misconceptions. Is all that glitters is not gold. All that glitters is like actually pixie dust and nonsense. So there's always people that are like, oh, why did no one complain? To which my response is, where are you getting it from that no one complained? First and foremost, most of these assistants complained. Who do they complain to? They complain to HR. And is HR listening to these people? No, they're not, to be quite frank. Where I worked, and y'all know, there are numerous complaints I made, my friends made. They're not listening. And then the point when you leave and then you're like, oh, I'm going to fix it. They don't fix it. And the reason why is they are incentivized to keep the producer, the executive, the agent, the person with the power who's bringing in the money happy. And how do you keep them happy? You let them talk to their employee however you want. You let them throw their stapler at their employee, which is completely crazy. A computer. And the man picked up a computer and threw it at someone. They let them do these things. And then when you complain, it's like, oh, you need to have thick skin. Thick skin is not going to prevent you from getting an open wound if someone throws a stapler at your head. Skin is not that thick. That's not how this works. And I think in terms of entertainment specifically, and I've touched on it a bit before, and I'm tried to be like very transparent. Y'all have seen my student loan journey, how much money like I used to make as a completely barred attorney when I made $30,000 working in entertainment. The dynamic between a very low paid employee who's young and is like, I really want to do this, and then some high paid executive who's making well into mid six figures, $400,000, $500,000, $600,000 a year. Sometimes some of these agents make millions of dollars, is completely uncomfortable. And they know that you're broke. They know. It's not like they're walking around in cashmere all day and they don't see that your ass is broke. They know you have no money. So it creates a very weird dynamic where it's the employee is most likely underpaid. I know people that used to be his assistant. The pay was not great. So you're already underpaid. This person is berating you. They're harassing you. So all you're thinking is, well, I can't complain because A, I will quit. I will lose my job. That's not even like paying me that much. And B, I don't want to get blackballed. The only people that ever speak out about these things are people that are like, I'm done with entertainment. It's toxic. Don't want to go there. Don't want to see it. Over it. But if that's your dream in life, and that's, that is a very hard reality for people. If that's your dream and you're like, I really want to do this. Like, I want to be a producer. I want to be an agent. I want to be whatever. Okay, well, it's the luck of the draw on how your boss treats you. And I think it's like completely ridiculous. Oh, somebody, I'm looking at the comments. Amy Klobuchar. Child, she says random stuff. Yep, we're going to talk about Harvey Weinstein as well. And I think what Me Too did was wonderful in showing, not wonderful, the whole thing is, the reasoning behind it is awful, but did a great job about showing like, okay, look at all of the harassment that's happening in the workplace, but people focused on sexual harassment, which is awful. So people like Scott Rudin, who are actually assaulting people at work, you throwing a staple at somebody's assault, you have assaulted them. Oh, well, they're not sexually harassing you. It's like, well, they're both awful and they both need accountability, which is completely ridiculous. So James said, I finally learned how to like show comments. So that's easier to read because y'all know I'm like this. I'm blind. In LA, they wanted me to work totally unpaid 9 to 7 as an intern. And then nickel and dime me over getting gas reimbursed for such liberal Hollywood elite managers making millions, shaking my head. Lasted a week. Yeah, they don't pay people. They don't pay. And if they pay you so little. And it's again, so either you accept it because you're like, oh, this is my dream. Like, I really want to do this. So the only way I can do this is I'm going to accept it, or you quit. And then nobody believes the person who years later is like, oh yeah, I worked for so-and-so and they were so awful to me. And now, I'm a manager like in some humdrum job that is not like as exciting, not as shiny. So nobody cares, which is trifling. You got to be a trust funder to do those jobs. Ciao. You have to be a trust funder, which is why there are diversity issues in all of entertainment. Or you have to have and supportive is not even the word. You have to be fortunate enough to have a family that will put you up, which all of my friends that were Black that worked there, all of our families were like, okay, fine, you can live with me, which not everybody doesn't have that privilege. That's a privilege for me. Like I lived with my grandparents when I did it, and I told them like, hey, I'm going to make no money. So can I live with you? Because this is like my dream to work here and I really want to do this. And then during it, I was like, well, I'm coming home crying every day. Like, this doesn't seem very dreamlike to me. This seems kind of awful. Is this worth it? So I think, let me go ahead and share the invite with you guys. So James brought up a good question. In corporate America, I want to say, to be honest, it's not just entertainment that is toxic. It's all of it, most of it. If we want to be like, okay, fine, there are a few good companies. The majority of it is set up this way into where the dynamic between you and your boss, the more hours you work, the likely more uncomfortable it will become, unless you like this person and they understand like, okay, yeah, this Stephanie's this person outside of this, like whatever. But sometimes people, when they have no other life outside of work, they will fixate on their employees because that's like their only social interaction. So however their day went, sometimes will be however your day went, which is why I always think it's important to vet your boss, because that's the person you have to deal with all day. That my stint in entertainment taught me to ask a million questions of my boss. To literally, to be honest, whenever I get a new job now, I go on LinkedIn, I see who used to work there, who used to work for them. And then I'm like, hey, I'm actually like in whatever round of interviews. Can I talk to you about this job? Can I talk to you about this person? Shamelessly. And if somebody doesn't like them, they're quick to tell you like, oh, so-and-so is awful. Like, I highly suggest you don't do that. So let me see. So GRTV said, I was on a music course with this young woman, really talented, and she told me she was tired of doing internships at 23. Black woman, they wouldn't give her a job, thinks she's done at 3. It's crazy. So the reason why, so every once in a while I get people that come and they're like, why do you have to say you're drinking Black-owned wine? Because the wealth disparity, the racial disparity bleeds into everything, particularly in the corporate workplace, particularly in entertainment, where it is you have to be able to work for free because a lot of these places don't pay. Like, for example, when I interned at Bad Boy years ago, the first semester of internship, it was, I got class credit, which means I paid to work there because I had to pay for my class credit. The second semester they paid me, which was nice. But the first semester I was like, okay, cool, I'm paying for this. Like, everybody can't do that. Like, everybody's not able. To be honest, was I able? Y'all have seen my student loan bill. Probably not, but it was a great experience and I really enjoyed it. And I had a pleasant experience there and I learned a lot. So that was good. But people that say, like, there was a big debate on Twitter the other day about, oh, internships, like unpaid internships. And it was a lot of people in sports entertainment, a lot of certain people being like, I interned at so-and-so, you millennials, which I don't know why they're saying millennials. Like, we're old now. We're turning 30. I'm 30 now. It's like Gen Z, really, to be honest. They're in that age. You guys are lazy. You think everything should be handed to you. If you're working 40 hours a week, boo-boo, I'm not doing that for free. That's a job. That's classified under the Department of Labor as a job. As an intern, you cannot work 40 hours a week. So I completely agree, James. Unpaid internships needs to be illegal. You're doing work. Some of these interns are actually doing a full-time job. I've seen interns before where they're running payroll. What business do you have running payroll? They have people for that, and they make an actual salary. So I'm going to take this call from Jace. Hi, Jace.
What's up, Bo?
Happy Friday.
Happy Friday.
My very large glass of fake sangria.
So, boy, do I have a story about shitty bosses. Ooh, my bad, girl. Bad bosses.
Listen, it's fine. Also, you guys can call in and you can vent. It's totally fine. I'll just so that way you're comfortable at the end of it, I'll probably just delete out the calls, if you mention your boss, so that way it's totally fine. Because I don't want anybody to oh, what if somebody all of a sudden hears my voice,
So
happen, but to Jace's point about your colleagues, and then James brought up this question. So Stephanie has mentioned previously, she kind of keeps her guard up at work, unbeknownst to them, because y'all know I'm very smiley. At least initially, any recs on how to tell whether a coworker can also be a friend or should remain a colleague. So as Jace learned with his shady coworker, I feel like we've all learned this lesson late because no one tells you how to vet out you're at work. But also entertainment specifically, even though you're at work, it's very relationship based. Work is very relationship based. Unless you work, I worked years ago at a luxury retailer as a global employee relations analyst. It was great. Right when I got out of law school, before I went to entertainment, when I was looking for a legal job, and it was super corporate. So people didn't really fraternize out of work. So I was okay, very 9 to 5. Every other job I've worked at, particularly tech, is very relationship based. Tech is built if you ever look at the pictures of the Google office, the Apple office, any startup that is doing well, the offices are built fully stocked wine, free wine, great. Food, avocado toast, all this stuff, because they want to incentivize you to stay there longer, literally the hours, so that way you do more work. That's how it's incentivized. And because you spend all this time with people, you're oh, these are my friends, which they can be your friends. Some of my my best friends, so Chelsea will is here, and Jasmine's probably on. My closest friends are people that I used to work with at CAA. Some of my closest friends in New York, to be honest, because Shayna moved and left me to Phoenix, are people that we used to work together. But it was not initially oh, these are my buddies. You have to kind of vet people out, to be honest. And this is very interesting to see. I always vet people out by who is just when you meet somebody and they're just trying to get in your business, and all of a sudden I'm the type of person, if you ask me something, my default setting is to answer people, which is it's not a bad trait, but I've realized as I've gotten older, I'm well, they're not entitled to that information. What do I have to tell them for? But I had to learn that a lot when I was younger. I was why is this person asking me all these questions? I thought it was interest, oh yeah, you want to be my friend, or they're just nosy. And I find that the more that people just want to find out your information for no reason, and they're not giving you any information about themselves, are generally the people at work you should stay away from. Which, had I realized that early on, my toxic boss that I had way back when, I would have realized that, because she asked me so many things about my personal life because they want to see what type of person you are so they can get over on you. And some of them are not even intentionally doing it, but that's just how that's how people are. So I always find that as a good gauge. If somebody's just asking you what do you do after work? What are you doing all this? It's because they want to know what you're doing to go tell so-and-so, because they have nothing else to talk about, which is weird. If it's mutual, then it's fine. I think that is what I've learned over the years, how to make sure things are mutual between coworkers before you just start divulging information that's unnecessary. Because also you don't know these people. You don't know, for example, I've learned certain people I just don't tell I have the YouTube. It's a huge part of my life now, but they don't need to know. I don't know how they're going to react to it. I don't need them to rain on my almost 10K parade. If you're not subscribed, you should subscribe. We're almost there. We're going to have a party. So I'm just saying. So on that note, I'm going to pull up Chelsea's comment, because I'm pretty sure it's what we're talking about. That Scott Rudin, this man right here, and we're going to get more into his story. He is not the only one who treats his staff this way. Is very typical. And we would know as we have seen it live and in person. So let me add Chelsea to the stream real quick. Hello. Hi, Chelsea.
Hello.
How are you, boo?
Oh, I'm good. How are you?
I love that I just know that you're good. I know.
Yeah, so I feel like this is This is also interesting because as I was writing in the comments, it is very typical of
Yes.
entertainment. Not everybody is like this, but a lot of people are
6 out of
like it.
10. They're more leaning this way. 7 out of 10, if we're being honest.
Yeah, because it's like
The
it's very
majority.
much what people were saying in the comments, the idea that people have to pay your dues, and that means you have to go through having a tough boss with a thick skin. And I
Mhm.
was talking to another friend who was in the business as well about this when all the allegations first came out, and she was like, I think entertainment is like the only place where having a bad attitude is considered a positive.
Yep.
And it's so odd because I think
Very
one
weird.
thing that they kind of touched on in the articles but didn't really get too into is like the fact that him having this negative reputation all these years has actually only bolstered his overall reputation. And then
People
if
think they're
you
more
as a
competent, which is very strange.
it's so weird.
It's
And then if
because,
you go through it as an
yeah,
assistant, if
the
you're one of the
nicer
people
I
that make
was,
it
the
through.
more that my old boss, the more mad she would get.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
was my one, by the way, just in case you're wondering about like demographics. I think demographics do play a very key role in the type of how people act. But then Stephanie, well, your personality is lovely, but and I'm like, I gotta be here all day. Like, I might as well smile about it. Like, I don't understand. Like, my happiness used to grate her nerves.
No, it's true. And it's also that's the other thing is in entertainment it's seen as a positive if you can get through working for one of these bosses. Like you're
Yeah,
considered they're like, "Oh wow, like we want to hire you." Like, because you can clearly handle tough stuff and you have a quote unquote thick skin, which I hate that term. Um
because remember when I did complain, that was the feedback I got. Stephanie,
yeah.
you're doing so well. You're handling her so well. I'm like, what is she, an elephant? Like, it's a tiger? I'm confused. This is not a circus. Like, what I have to handle this woman for? Like, I just want to do like, I don't understand. I was like, is there a problem? They're like, oh, it's not you. All of the former people that work for her complained. I'm like, and you don't think you should say something to this person? Okay, cool.
Yeah, and it's hard because especially in this industry, people are so prolific that it's like you feel like you may not be able to get another job. And I know in one of the articles, I can't remember whether it was New York Times or the original Hollywood Reporter one, people were saying like former assistants were like he would call if he really, really didn't like you, he would call your next boss and be like, you don't need to hire them.
The
And
blackballing. This is
people
what
are
people are afraid
petty.
of. People are petty, and it is. So the people, because I know people are going to ask, isn't that illegal? Yes, it is harassment. But if your dream is, I really want to do this. This is what I want to do. I know in my spirit, I want to be a books agent. I know in my spirit, I want to be a producer. I know that I'm a really good writer. You're not going to say anything. Because
Right.
what's it worth to you? Your dream that like this is my calling in life versus someone like throwing something at you. You're like, well, that blood on my head dried.
No, but it's so true. It's so funny. BoJack Horseman. I don't know if anybody else has watched that show. They had a
I see the
whole
commercial.
couple of episodes that was basically talking about this, but they had one of the characters basically was assaulted by one of the other main characters. And you kind of see it play out over her, like the course of her career as an actress in the show for like a couple of episodes. And it ends up where she starts like flinching whenever men get near her because it's like an
Mhm.
automatic response because she's like, I don't want to be assaulted. And
Yeah.
then it gets to a point where somebody is looking for a person to be in their movie and they're like, oh, well, I heard like, she's a really good actress. I love her, blah, blah, blah. And then this other person who was just on set but didn't know the background for anything was like, yeah, but she's difficult, and it's like, and
When
that's
you're
what
assertive, you're
happens a
difficult.
lot in
Yep.
entertainment. And that's especially with Harvey Weinstein. That's what it was a lot for
Oh,
the
he's on my
actresses,
scroll down. Mm-hmm.
but especially for like even assistants and stuff. If you're that low on the totem pole, you don't want to rock the boat because you don't want that to be following you.
Mm-hmm. This is a small collage of questionable, hostile workplace environment bosses. Many have since have gotten fired and had accountability. Harvey Weinstein is actually getting real accountability, so good for that.
Right.
Yeah, it's crazy. Amanda Seales, people always like, oh, it's my problematic fave. I'm like, there's nothing problematic about her, really, to be honest. She made a post the other day and she was like, whenever you stand up for yourself, people will call you aggressive.
Yep.
And she was like, I'm not aggressive. She's like, I just don't take shit. And I was like, as you shouldn't. Like, this concept of grown adults taking foolishness from other grown adults. It doesn't really make any sense. And it's not just limited to entertainment. This does happen in any, I think, in corporate in general. In corporate, I would say it's a little bit more covert. They're not as, in your face about it, because that's not like kosher. They have actual real HR departments in most of corporate America. Not that, it's perfect over there, but entertainment is corporate on steroids.
Yeah, it is.
And it's either like, if you made it, then people know you have thick skin.
Right.
Why is that a badge of honor to have quote unquote thick skin? It's not, and it's not even thick skin. It means you know how to take abuse. That's what it means.
You're literally emotionally numb. That's what they're celebrating. That you are emotionally numb.
You are numb, and people can say wild stuff to you, and then you'll just brush it off.
Right.
Like, having worked in tech, like all these years, like tech is not perfect. And one of the main areas of tech I always complain to people about is that sometimes, my current company is surprisingly better about this. But a lot of times, because people that work in tech, well, I'll say sales people can be like downright awful sometimes, particularly sales directors, that they're incentivized to get things done quickly, which obviously is opposite to how legal runs, which is get things done correctly. So obviously, like, there's tension, but sometimes some of these people like have harassed me at work. Chelsea knows, like I've had to complain, but at least then the idea is, oh, well, we don't want a hostile work environment. There are some tech companies, which we're going to talk about them later, that have straight up hostile work environments, and their CEOs have been pushed out and called out. So there are issues there too. But the idea is you want the happy employee. Entertainment doesn't run off happy employees. They don't give a damn about your happiness.
No. And it's such an industry, as we both know, where you're expendable. When you're in that type of role, when you're in the lower staff, if you're an assistant, if you're a PA, if you're anything in there, you're very expendable. And that's kind of what people hold over you, is they're like, there's some other little girl or boy out there, person that can take this job in 5 minutes and wants it more than you do. So if you leave, like, it's fine. Like, we don't really care. Like, if you leave, it's to the detriment of you, not to the detriment of us.
Exactly. And this is a good point that James brought up. And I think it's interesting because I obviously drink and Chelsea doesn't drink, for context. So I think the trickiest thing is drinking with coworkers. You let your guard down easily and bond quickly, but then second guess what you said. So I'll just speak for entertainment first. In tech, child, I told you, most tech companies stock everything: alcohol, food, Chobani yogurt, which is like, oh, you guys bought fancy yogurt? Wow. Avocados, like all the things that they think people want. So that they stay in the office. So yes, most people have stayed on Friday nights, like the thing, they put the music on, like these are your buddies, you're drinking, whatever. I've seen people get fired because they have done complete nonsense. But I think what we have seen in entertainment specifically, it takes on a very insidious factor, which we've seen in Me Too, which is the line between like what is professional and then what is like, oh, we're networking, like Harvey Weinstein, which he's going to come up later in the slide, well, is a predator and used his power and was like, oh, well, come have a drink with me. Come have dinner with me. Like, oh, we're going to talk about a movie. Motherfucker, we're not talking about no damn movie at 11 p.m. What are you talking about? But entertainment doesn't have set hours. Right. It just runs at any time. So then you feel bad. You're like, oh, well, I guess I have to go talk to this person because they said so. Like, okay, this is kind of awkward. Like, okay, whatever. Well, at least my friend is there. Like, Charles, some of your coworkers that are your friends will leave you with the predator because they don't know, or they want to act like they don't know.
No, I'd say like definitely entertainment also normalizes spaces that should not be normalized, because I remember when all the Harvey Weinstein stuff was coming out, a lot of people were shocked when they're like, well, why were these actresses going up to a hotel room anyways? And I was like, that's how entertainment runs. Like, that's where you set a lot of general meetings. If somebody is only in a city or whatever for a couple of days, they would just be like, listen, I'm over here in the Four Seasons, have them come up to my room. And that's just what it is. And it's like, it's not weird at all. And I'm like, but I think it's just a different culture. And then, in regards to the drinking, for sure, like, I think the other thing with entertainment and the drinking is also that most things revolve around parties. So it's like,
if parties are
easier, and premieres, and like, so what you're doing, especially if you become, if you're a producer, writer, director, agent, manager, whatever, half of the time during the week, not during the panorama, you're going to premieres and to a party at least a couple times a week.
Yeah.
So it's just
To be
like,
out all the time.
yeah. And
But
don't even get me started on like music. You're out at a
oh,
concert,
music.
you're at a
I
show
don't know how
every
Jasmine
night.
survived music. If Jasmine calls in, she would talk about that. But I don't have the stamina. Like if you want to work in music, like when I used to, I was like, damn, I don't have the stamina for this. Like they are out 4 or 5 times a week. They have to go to shows. They have to meet the clients. They have to meet, the talent. Like you have to be awake. You have to be alive, which is why
Go to
like
the after party
you
and
have
then
to go
do
to
it
the
all
after
over
party.
again at 9 a.m.
It's a lot. And I think
Girl.
it's important to talk about this part too, that Windfire is saying, I never break bread with coworkers because when things happen, it's messy, which is a good point. But I will say, but for one reason, if you guys ever read Minda Hart's The Memo, I think it's like really good. You should read it. And that's me saying that I need to get through it. But one of the things that I think particularly Black people and POC as well, what we miss out on when we're trying to put those boundaries, that should be there at work. There's an element of it that's relationship based. So for example, if we just use corporate as an example, sometimes promotions, they're not posted, but you know who knows that it's there? The person that goes
Most of the time.
Most of the time. Okay, thank you. Most of the time they're not, but you know who knows? The person that goes to the happy hour that keys with the VP. Maybe the VP is nice. Maybe it's like not awkward, but it's hard because like we know boundaries and we're like, oh no, foolishness is gonna happen. And what I've learned with that, because like I have tried to do all of it, as long as you're not the last one to leave. And if I always said like, your tolerance, your personal tolerance. So I'm like, okay, I have a 2-drink maximum, or I have a 3-drink maximum, like whatever your tolerance is. You set it like a couple drinks before that. So you're like, okay, I'm going to leave. So it's like, oh, look, so-and-so's engaged, because it's sad. But when you work in these corporate places, they want someone who there's an air of, I live and die for this place.
Yep.
And entertainment is that on steroids. You cannot make it entertainment if you're like, unless you are the talent. As a talent, you could do what you want to do. But if you want to work like as a producer, as an executive, as whatever, it doesn't work unless you're willing to smooth with people, which means you have to rub the elbows, which it can be fun, but it also can feel very invasive depending on your personality. So that's definitely something to think about. I think it gets easier with time. I think probably Chelsea could talk better to this, how does it feel to be like around people that are intoxicated when you're not? I'm sure. Like having done that when I did bodybuilding, like I was like, people act a fool. Like I'm drink less outside, because I'm like, do I act like this? Like when we're out, like what is happening?
Yeah, no, I mean people do act crazy, or they just like slop. It's mostly just people are just sloppier. But yeah, it is hard because I feel like especially here in America, so much of everything is tied to like alcohol. Mm-hmm. And like that's the way that you connect, not in a bad way, but that's just what it is.
It's true.
And and I'm like, and that's how a lot of people learn to connect with other people, and especially in a workplace environment, which is a little bit more, depending on where you work, it's stiff. So it's like, well, exactly. How do we kind of like, how do I learn like what you did in the 5th grade, like the funniest story you have? I have to generally drink with you to get that story and get to that point where I feel like I know the real you beyond just you sitting in your cubicle all day.
And so that way you can build, the relationships.
Exactly. And like you said, it is hard. And like Windfire like wrote, like it's one of those things where you really have to know the balance, and you have to figure out what the balance is for you. But you do, like you said, you really do have to connect with people, because a lot of jobs you could be doing your damnedest and doing the greatest job, and they will promote your coworker who is out every night with the team.
Your coworker that is a fool.
And you will just be like, wait, what happened? I'm doing the better job. But they're like, yeah, but we don't feel like we know you. Or, X, Y,
what was the feedback you got once? That Chelsea was too professional.
Oh, yeah, that I was too professional. Yeah, HR told me that.
I don't know how one can be too professional, but.
I mean, but you also have people that come into, there was somebody that worked at our old job who got hired because she happened to be out at a nightclub and met an agent, and they were like, oh, you'd be a good, like, they didn't do any, like, not in like a negative way. They were he just was like, oh, I think you'd be a lot of fun, and like you should.
They want to work with somebody fun.
Yeah.
And this is a great point from Make It Happen 5N, which is why people have said time and time again, work culture and professionalism is anti-Black. It is. It is. Because at one end of it is you need to be corporate enough. Your hair needs to be straight enough. Child, my hair needs to be straight every day. If I could show y'all old pictures of how damaged it was, until I finally was like, I don't give a damn. I'm not doing it anymore. And to be honest, it was half like, I was like, I don't feel like I should have to do this, but half like sheer, listen, it takes so much time. Like, I have things to do. Y'all want me to work 12 hours a day? I can't straighten it. Like, I cannot. I'm not doing it.
Not every day.
I can't do it. So then I just stopped doing it. But there's the one end of like, you need to be corporate, you need to assimilate. But then also, well, don't assimilate too far, because, you know, you got to be all the way. But if you're all the way and you act like how some of these people act when they're out at the holiday party, you will get fired. You will get fired quicker than them. So it's hard to find the line. The line is not real. It's all speculative. And to Chelsea's point, I've seen so many people who, to be honest, they're not qualified, but they are friends with the person that's hiring, or they're friends with the hiring manager. And so it's like a game you play.
Yeah, you got to everybody has to figure out their own balance, and it does take a bit of like trial and error. But I do always say now, unfortunately, like you do have to go out there and network with people, because
completely,
you really just don't have a choice, because that's just how our current work culture is set up.
Yeah, you definitely have to network with people, and I think it has to be like someone, you don't want it to be miserable, so you have to figure out like, what about it do you like? You know, like what part of it can like bring you some happiness? And then, so GRTV, it's a game. It's a game. So like, don't play a game that you're just like, I hate this. When we were starting, I was like, I'm not going to like get treated like this. Like, this is crazy. Like, I paid a lot of money for this law degree. Like, no, not doing it. You know, like sometimes your dreams will change. Sometimes you'll regret it, but like, you have to try. So I think it's definitely trial and error. Yeah. And some people are very wonderful. Chelsea and I are like very close friends, and like I met her at work.
Yeah.
So
you got to find your people.
Yeah, you just have to find who at work, which might take longer than you think. When Chelsea and I first met, to be honest, let's be honest, what floor were you on? I think you're on the
19,
and you were at 19 and I was at like 21. We used to have like 2 floors. You were like on the investment desk, and Chelsea didn't say 2 words to me, child, for like 2 months. She was like, I don't know the girl.
I had to feel you out.
She was like, I don't know her. I don't know her. Never heard of her. Never seen her. And I was just like, hi, how are you? Black person. She was like, hello, Stephanie. And I was like, okay, hello. My bad. But you know, you have to feel people out, and you have to take time, because when you rush, like rarely things are good when you rush into them.
It's true. Especially when it comes to work. It's always better to be on the side of caution.
It's always
you don't want to make the office gossip your friend, not knowing that that's the office gossip.
You know exactly who's in my mind right now. Still gossiping away. We had this office gossip one time who logged into somebody else's computer, didn't realize she was on somebody else's computer. Well, she knew, because obviously she was sitting there, because that's like how floater assistants work. Didn't realize that she had logged into her own stuff, was gossiping about the person that sat at the desk. And then the person came back like the next day and was like, what happened? Like, what? Child, you can't be the office gossip and be messy.
Yeah. Don't be the office gossip as like a general rule.
Just don't do it. Yeah, you should just not do it. Everyone detests Kiki Palmer. Sorry, I do not know her. Listen, Chelsea was like, I don't know this girl. Told you,
you gotta look out for yourself. So however long that takes for you, for me,
exactly.
All of my other friends can also attest. It was like a good 2 months. I just like to feel people out and see how they react and their actions, and that normally takes around a month or 2.
Exactly, and then it's fine. Like, we've been friends now. God, how many years? Like 4 years now. So it's fine. Like you gotta let people feel you out, and you feel them out. I find those to be like the best friendships you make.
It's true. All right. Well, I'm going to let you go.
Okay. I'm going to take this next call. I'm going to answer this question. Thanks, call. Thank you for calling in, Boo.
Of course.
All right. So how do you guys network in the entertainment industry, Chelsea and Stephanie? It's a lot of going out. You need to be honest. We used to go to like back when we used to go outside to a bunch of premieres together. Chelsea's very big into TV and film. A bunch of premieres. Because I'll let her put the link. I don't remember like how it used to work, but there are like certain links. Like if you live in New York, we live in NYC. So there are certain links you can sign up for. So you know when all the premieres are, you can get free tickets, like a bunch of stuff. So we used to do that. I used to go to a bunch of charity events because the company would buy tables and then nobody senior would want to go. And I was like, well, it's free fancy dinner and I'm broke. So of course I make this free fancy dinner and then network. That works well too. I would say just like reaching out to other people really helps. I know some people that are very good networkers on social media. I don't think I'm very good at that. Like, I don't know, but that works for some people. Like, hey, look, I like what you're doing. I also do, etc. Would love to like have a quick chat with you. I think always saying quick chat and setting a time with somebody helps the most. I would like 20 minutes, 15 minutes, because then people are like, you're going to talk my head off. I don't know what you want to talk about. So that's good. I'm going to take this call from Natty. Hi, Natty. How are you?
Hey, Stephanie. Love your channel.
Thank you. How are you doing? Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. I'm in NYC as well.
Oh, yay. We're finally going outside July 1st.
Yes. According to your Mayor de Blasio, yeah, we're supposed to be opening in the city. What I want to talk about a little bit is I piggyback everything you and Chelsea was saying about finding a balance and it's a game and all that. I worked in a corporate law firm, and that situation.
Oh, the most fun people.
But the funny thing about that was with the networking, a lot of times we used to go to like celebrate cases. If we won a big case, we would all go out for lunch, and they would buy us dinner, and the alcohol is flowing, and that's when you find out about the real attorneys, because normally some of them are like stiffs, but I think it's a balance. You have to definitely find a balance. You can't listen just because they act away don't mean you and I can act that way, because that's just how our society is. That's just how our society is. I also had like a crazy story about a boss. Oh my God. I used to, so this boss, because now I'm in government now. So this boss was like a crazy, crazy, crazy lady. She was so cheap. We all do exchange.
1 second. I want to say this because she said lady, and mine is also a woman as well. My like worst boss. It's important because the only people that get outed with the most vigor are old white men. It is also some white women.
Middle-aged white women.
Those and I'm going to be very honest. All of my Black female friends, whenever they talk about their worst boss, it has always unfortunately been a white woman, which is that dynamic is very uncomfortable. Like it is a dynamic of there's a racial dynamic, and there's a sense of like sometimes I got a feeling of they men treated them bad. Like, well, at least I have somebody I'm over. It was just like very uncomfortable. But I think that's important to point out because we can't fix these things unless we talk about it. And I'm like, okay, great. Out the abusers, out all of them.
I feel that too. I feel like, like you said, like they can't control some parts of their real life. So when they come to work, they take it out on their coworkers, or the people under, I don't want to even say underneath them because you're not underneath anybody, but
exactly. Yeah.
And she always thought that she was such a wonderful person. She always thought that she was a wonderful person, and she was so.
And then you're crazy. You think like, oh well, this person like, because they talk about themselves, which is a weird thing. These types of people, these narcissists, will talk about themselves to you. So then you're wondering like, oh well, maybe I'm not good enough, or I'm doing something wrong as to why they're treating me this way.
Right. I don't. I guess it's that narcissism thing that had them thinking like that. And last point before I get off the call with you is the Harvey Weinstein thing. I know, guys. You say entertainment that like there's no time frame. People meet in hotels all the time, but honestly, for me, going to these people's hotel rooms by yourself, right? And his reputation. Like, I'm not victim blaming. I'm just saying, as a person who was on the outside, like we're not entertainment, like the normal, every average day person reading and hearing these stories, they're like, listen, why are these people going into this man room and he come out in a robe and then they're thinking and that's okay? Like, I don't get that part of that whole story, with these. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, I think you bring up a very well-spoken point, which is that from the outside looking in, it's hard to understand. From someone that's been in it, that's seen foolishness, part of it is you're just stunned. You're just like, oh, well, this happens to other people, but so-and-so told me their interaction was normal. So I'm going to have a normal interaction because I'm not doing anything. I'm minding my business. And then you're just standing there like, oh, Jesus, like, I would like to leave, but I don't know how to leave. And I think there is a lot of weight to be given to this idea that, like, say for some crazy reason, which I'm not, but I was like this prolific painter and I was like Picasso, which his stuff is not that great to me. Anyways, say I was like Picasso and I was like amazing. And I found this like investor, this art dealer that was like, I'm going to sell your stuff. And I was like, what? I grew up in the gutter. Like I have nothing. Like, oh my God, I'm so excited someone's going to sell my stuff. And if they're like, okay, well, come meet me at 12 o'clock. Like, I work weird hours because people preface things. So there is this understanding. There's no one ever being like, oh yeah, I work 9 to 5. People preface say, I work weird hours. So come meet me here at this time. So then you're like, okay, well, this is their normal. I need to adapt. I don't know any better. I'm an outsider. I'm this scrub. Like life has been unkind to me. I grew up in the gutter. Okay, I'm gonna meet you there at 12 o'clock. Well, that's what you said. This is what like the in people do. They're awake at 12 o'clock. Like, okay, cool. I'm going to show up at 12 o'clock. You get there. You're like, okay, cool. I'm keep my distance, shake your hand. I'm being professional. Okay, yeah, I don't know any better. This is what the people do. Okay, then they come out in the robe and they're doing the nonsense. And you're standing there like, oh, is this still what people do? Like people from where I'm from in the gutter don't do this. But I don't want to be in the gutter anymore. I want to be where I know that the other prolific artists are. So you stand there. Because psychologically, the other half of it that people don't talk about enough is that who sent these people there? Their agent did.
Wow. Yeah,
Their agent that they trust, their agent that is like, I book everything for you, boo. You're going to get out of the gutter. Like, I realize, Stephanie, you're this prolific Picasso. Like, I've been in this industry for X amount of years. So-and-so, this is his normal hours. Okay, well, I don't know any better. I'm from the gutter. Okay, cool. I believe you. You told me to do it. You found me. You discovered me. Like you are my saving grace.
I think too. Some of those people
they're
should
to
be
blame.
outed too. Yeah, they need to be outed too because they really. It's that cycle of the predator, the people who are enabling his disgusting behavior. I mean, I feel so bad when I heard those stories about at least the one lady that actually tried to get him arrested, and they wouldn't even arrest him. When she said that
people do complain.
It's just crazy. But anyway, thank you for having me. I love your show. I'm here almost every Friday or Thursdays whenever you decide to do the live.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate you.
Okay, bye.
Have a good night. That was a great point. It's not just like Harvey and these people. It's not just, oh, you're a bad boss and these people. These people that terrorize other people have existed long before you have the interaction with them, which means other people around them have either enabled them or have just turned a blind eye to it. Both are awful. Both are just awful. Ciao. I'm going to give that an affirmative yes. Because some of them are also predators themselves, which we could have a separate discussion about that. So now I forgot my agenda. Let's see. What were we going to talk about? So let's see. Okay. So one thing I wanted to talk about his statement that he made because it's very interesting. And oh gosh, I cannot see that. Okay, let me look over here. It reads very a la James Charles, which if you haven't watched that video, you should watch that video. This word of accountability gets thrown around by people that act a fool all the time. But yet there is no actual accountability. And accountability is not the same thing as consequences. So we're going to read this, and then I'm going to bring up somebody who actually had to face consequences, somebody I adore, which is like very interesting, and how only certain people face consequences. So let's read this. This is what I was about to call this man Harvey. Lord have mercy. This is Scott Rudin. What Scott Rudin said. Much has been written about my history of troubling interactions. That's what he called the assault that he did, okay, with colleagues, and I am profoundly sorry for the pain my behavior caused to individuals directly and indirectly. He wrote in a 3-paragraph statement emailed to the Post. So I took this from the Post, his statement. So he emailed the statement, which is very old school. After a period of reflection, I've made the decision to step back from active participation on our Broadway productions, effective immediately. He took the decision. My roles will be filled by others from the Broadway community and a number of cases from the roster of participants already in place on these shows. My passionate hope and expectation is that Broadway will reopen successfully very soon, deflecting, and that the many talented artists associated with it will once again begin to thrive and share their artistry with the world. Again, deflecting. I do not want any controversy associated with me to interrupt. I want to hide instead of being accountable, okay? Broadway's well-deserved return, or specifically the return of the 1,500 people working on these shows. This man did not bring up, this is a millionaire, did not bring up the 1,500 people, particularly the stagehands, the screenwriters, the actors that have been in New York, because I live in New York, honey. New York has been closed. I live in Brooklyn, which like Brooklyn at least was like, okay, I guess some things, even in Brooklyn, things are closed at 11 o'clock. He was like, oh yeah, let's talk about these people. I don't want to take away from that. No, you don't want to actually be accountable. And accountability is not the same thing of consequences. So I think it's important to note many, many years ago, which I will admit my bias first. I adore this person. I don't have like any celebrity, people get like celebrity shock. I don't give a damn. This one person, I would probably be like, oh my gosh, and like ask for a hug. I wouldn't hug her because I don't think she's a hugger. And that's like inappropriate. But I think I would just ask. I love Naomi Campbell. I'm just going to be honest. I love Naomi Campbell. I think she's it. Do recall though, many years ago, Naomi Campbell she threw her phone at her assistant. Her assistant pressed charges against her, as her assistant should, because boo-boo, you can't be assaulting people. What happened? Naomi Campbell notoriously I think she pled out and she had to do community service, to which she was like, fine, I'm going to do community service in Chanel. It was very iconic. However, that is consequences to your actions. I mean, anybody trying to shame her, like, is clearly not working. Like, my girl is like, listen, I don't feel no shame, but fine. I admit it. There are repercussions to my actions. These fake ass statements, excuse my French, of people being like, I am going to hold myself accountable. James Charles. I am going to be accountable. Scott Rudin. I am being accountable. You wrote something on a paper and said, I am going to be accountable, and then hid. That's not accountability. Accountability is the people you threw a stapler at, threw a computer at, the family of the assistant that unfortunately committed suicide, according to his family, because of you, is when they sue you and when charges are pressed. When the justice system takes action, it is assault. I'm like not understanding why. Well, I know why, because people don't actually want to be accountable. There is no accountability for certain people. And obviously I'm not saying all that like Naomi was right. No, she deserved the punishment. You can't be throwing phones at people, girl. But but for example, that is actual consequences. You did A, B is happening to you to make you realize you cannot do A anymore. And then C is the future, not this, oh, well, I wrote a statement. Okay, I'll be back in 6 months like nothing happened. That's not accountability. That is not accountability. How many lives? Listen. And this, you guys can watch that video. Like, I really wish somebody would do a video to the children that watch his show, like explain, because clearly, and I'm not, those people like, parents need to watch their kids. I'm the oldest of 7. Like some people's parents got to work 3 jobs. It is what it is. But YouTube should take better action in explaining to these children, hey, you're watching certain things. Oh, did I cut off? I think I'm here now. Because it's completely ridiculous. So Will James Jr. said, producers within Hollywood and Broadway will deny and try to cover up the illegal and things that aren't illegal but are just unethical. They don't fear any retribution. And that's the answer. There is no fear. There's no fear of consequences. There's just like, oh, it's going to be uncomfortable. People are going to cancel me. And then, whatever. There needs to be fear of your actions. You need to have certain people are just not going to do the right thing unless they know something negative will happen to them if they don't. Certain people need to happen. So some of y'all say Naomi is awful. To my knowledge, I don't know that. So I'm just gonna put that out there. I'm just gonna be honest, because I'm always very honest with y'all about my biases of who I care about. If I were to find that out, then I would have to disown her, which would make me very sad. But that's the reality of life. So would have to look into that, to be very honest. So yeah, I think we have to get past the idea in our society now that outing somebody is the end goal. Because it doesn't do anything. Like it does, like people get riled up and they're like, I gotta write all these things on Twitter and I'm gonna get upset. And then, okay, cool. File the police report. Next time someone grabs you at work, which has happened to me, next time you get assaulted, which it has happened to a numerous amount of my female friends at work, which is very interesting. And it was like under a guise of like, oh, maybe we're at the holiday party. You're like, oh, maybe we're at such and such like entertainment event. Like, oh, I don't think they meant it that way. I don't give a damn how they meant it. They shouldn't be touching you. Go file the police report. And that is coming from a place of straight up indignation on my end, but also the I suddenly cannot read. I'm gonna go look it up. A straight up indignation, but also it comes with a privilege. I think what people don't realize, and there's always like this swift when victims come forward about things. Why didn't you say that years ago? Well, because they were poor, or they needed the money, or they needed a job, like normal people do. So it's on one end, point your finger at people, but you can only point your finger when you know like that person can't harm you, which is like very sad. Which keeps us keeps most people in this cycle of having to deal with people like Scott Rudin. So, or to whatever level. So at that point, I was going to pull up some, in my opinion, hostile work environment. So some people that have been held to task. So basically, here we have the former founder of Away. Her name is also Stephanie, but she was having her employees work like extremely long hours, 12, 14 hours a day. When they asked for vacation, she was denying it. It turned into a whole mess until she had to walk away from her company. And then 2 weeks later was like, actually, I'm back. I shouldn't let the media bully me out of my company. It was like, girl, this is abuse. Here's Matt Lauer, who was accused of sexual misconduct and then got pushed out. Y'all all know Harvey's ugly mug. Here's Les, who also sexual allegations. And this is the most interesting one. Miss Agrawal, which I always try to, hopefully I don't say her name right. Is still the founder of Finks, but she doesn't work there anymore. If you're not familiar with Finks, you should look that up. That was a very interesting story. Women can also, one of her employees filed with the New York City Human Rights Department. Women can also commit sexual harassment at work. So it's not limited to men. It's not limited to men like doing nonsense. While it's mostly them, there are also, case and few of that. I forgot if I remove myself, then you can't see me, you can't hear me. I'll just remove this one. Thanks. Yeah. So these two are the two women are from tech, so tech specific. Tech is an interesting place in that I'm always like, tech is better than entertainment. I will be honest, hands down, yes, it is. However, tech is also highly problematic. There are plenty of lawsuits against tech founders, against different harassment issues, specifically being tech and entertainment. Because I think, James, you asked about this earlier. If I was like to tell somebody like, hey, what industry should you go in? Tech is obviously growing very quickly, particularly software, particularly SaaS, software as a service. FinTech is all the rage. Anything in that area, esports is really great. So you can make a higher salary. So in terms of pay parity, tech is where it's at, child. You'll get paid way more money. Okay, great. So that's great. So we're starting off at a better range. Unless you're working for a Series A company, sometimes the pay is not great. Series B and forward, they're paying really good. If you work for a unicorn, which means they're $1 billion valuation, they're paying great. Okay, great. So that solves the pay disparity, because a lot of you were saying, even Jace was saying, hey, I'm getting paid less. The pay disparity is less. However, they're not immune. Facebook, this has come up. Amazon, this has come up. Google has come up. They all have lawsuits about paying Black and brown people less. Okay, cool. Now they're trying to, fix that. Okay, fine. The pay disparity, tech is winning for doing tech versus entertainment. If we talk about the work-life balance, I would say that depends. So entertainment, as Chelsea was saying, entertainment is okay, cool. I'm going to log off of work at 7, 7:30, 8. Sometimes you work super late. Okay. I'm going to log off work. However, you're then going to the premiere. You're going to the show. You have to go network. Yeah, maybe you're drunk and having a good time, but you're still at work. So it's not like you really clocked out versus when you're in tech, it's like, okay, well, I'm at work, we're working, it's great. Some places you're like, okay, cool, 6 o'clock, we're logging off. They're playing beer pong, they're doing whatever, like you see in the ads. Some places are like, no, we're still working. Like we're working around the clock because we have to keep the growth. We have to keep the growth. We have to keep the growth. I've worked at both, child. I personally think people should really respect work hours, but that has been like a point of contention for me in corporate. The only place that I ever worked at that like was like, listen, these are the hours, get it done in this time, was when I worked in luxury retail, like in their corporate office in like the HR department. That's the only place. They were like, my boss at that time, she was wonderful. She used to leave at 4:55 p.m. on the dot. She's like, goodbye, I'm done with this. Most places like will run late, especially now in the pandemic. Most people are working 50, 60, 70 hours a week, which I think is unfair. So in terms of work-life balance, they're both like, not the best. In terms of the dynamic with your boss, I think tech is better. Because the dynamic with your boss in entertainment, they know because your pay is low. They already know like your salary is low. So they know your pay is low, and they know because your pay is low, you're only taking this low pay because you really want it. That's how they make you pay dues. They're like, oh, well, why should we pay these people? They're going to do it. Heck, if we made them all interns, they would still do it. If entertainment could make every junior employee an intern, they would, but they legally cannot. So James said, seems like both industries are for 40 and younger. Yeah, I would say there's a very ageist element. But at the point of like 40 and above, you're usually like senior employee. And I would say fintech actually skews a little bit older because they try to pull former investment bankers. So that's like interesting to see, like more variety in terms of age. But yeah, so I would say like in terms of, I've had better bosses in tech than when I was in entertainment, I would say. So that has been great. Yeah, I think I always tell people, particularly POC and like Black people as well, try tech out, try a couple of them and see if you like it, because the pay is generally better than traditional corporate and better than entertainment. So if you're going to get tossed around at work and like people are going to act a fool with you, well, at least you could pay your bills better. That sounds awful, but tech is paying my student loans. Y'all know this. And I like the company I'm at now, I really like, so that's good. But oh my gosh, I'm very shocked right now. Thank you, Principal Pears. That's so nice of you. It will go all towards my student loans. I appreciate you. Oh, that was so nice. So, oh yes, I think they're based in Canada, Kareen. What was the name of the company that paid their employees $75K starting? Everyone get paid that. Oh, I have to look it up. I've been reading a few articles about them. Even their CEO, that's how much he makes. He's also has a lot of stock in the company. So he's like, well, I don't actually need the money. A lot of these other companies are just greedy. I can't remember. There's a company though that starts 75, which is great. Like they should pay people. Oh, look, this is so funny. Oh, thank you so much. As a corporate manager, I'm trying to stay off that list. The stress is real. Listen, this makes me so, thank you. That was a lot of money. So thank you. Child, $2 is a lot of money to me. So thank you. I appreciate it. It's good to see there are bosses. I have like currently a great boss, which is like really nice and like a breath of fresh air. And like I made sure to ask a trillion questions and ask other people about him before like I took my job. All you have to do is try to care, like nobody has to be perfect, but some of these people get a lot of happiness about making somebody else miserable, which is strange, but also what? Like you don't need that in your life. Life is so short, particularly because I think the statistic is 70% of Americans work in jobs they hate with an H, not dislike, hate. So having a bad boss on top of that is just not ideal. It's not ideal. But thank you so much for this. And I'm sure look at you. I will hope you're a wonderful boss. I would you being cognizant would lead me to believe on a good note. But yeah, so I would say Dan Price, yes. Dan, and he said moral improvement. Yes, morale improvement. Yes, I believe. I'm going to Google it really quick while we're on the phone. Lord. Yes, it is Dan Price, because I always know his picture. I see it on LinkedIn. What's the name of his company, though? Yes, this man that looks like Dan Price. What's the name of his company? I see Gravity Payments. In case y'all want to apply, let me put Dan Price on the screen. They're going to get a bunch of like applications. Hold on. Let's see. Uh-oh. I don't know what I did. Share screen. Okay. See, I had it all set up, and then look at this. Okay, here we go. Do y'all see Dan? So this is Dan Price. And his company is called Gravity Payments. But yes, thank you, Levi. He does pay people $75,000. I do have Cash App. So my Cash App is, hold on, it's in my, because I forget because I don't like going it that much. I have it in like my videos. I'll put it in the chat. Oh, actually, I lied because I set this up way back when. I should do another live with him when I did it with Justin for Binge Worthy. He's like, you have to set up your Cash App on the thing. So I have a banner. So I set up this banner. So yes, any money you give me, any stream you watch, you'll know it's going towards my student loans. I want to be free of my debt. That's what I really would like in my life, to be honest. Sooner rather than later. Put him on Summer Jam screen, Steph. Yes, like, listen. And to be honest, I think I'm just going to speak for attorneys now for like 1 second, because I think it's important to find like, what do you want to do with your life? Like, life is long. People are always like, life is short. Yes, or life is very long. And life is comprised of those small decisions you make every day, and it will become super monotonous. And next thing you know, you blink and you're 50 and you're miserable because you listen to somebody else's idea or version of success. And you're like, I hated this. I've known I hated this for years. So for example, attorneys, I think we're running like, if the US average is 70%, these are ballpark estimates. I don't remember, to be honest. And I've had sangria. If attorneys is 70% that hate their job, if the US is 70% of people hate their job, attorneys are probably at 75. Attorneys are higher. Hate, as in strong hate. You know what keeps attorneys at the law firm? The fact that they have student loans. They have student loans. So they're like, oh crap, I have to stay here to pay these off. As some of you know, I think most of you know because I say it randomly all the time. I started with $304,000 of student loans. That's predatory. That's ridiculous. $54,000 of that was just in interest after 4 years of graduating. Ridiculous. This is 5 years now. So now I've paid off to date $81,000. $10,000 of that went to just interest starting last year, February. 70% of my paycheck goes towards my student loan. So just in case you're wondering about that, hold on, let me take this off. This thing's obnoxious. But yeah, so part of the reason why, I finally make enough money to where I'm like, okay, I can do that. Because before I told you I made $30,000 a year. You can't, like, I was in poverty. Now I make 6 figures. So the majority of my money, 70%, goes towards my student loan. So I can get out of this cycle because I have finally come to the realization, I have finally been comfortable enough to the realization, like, hey, I don't want to be an attorney forever. Hey, I'd like to do other things with my life. Hey, like, you know, I like this YouTube thing. I think like I can make a better impact, actually like help people, talk to people versus like me sitting there and redlining commas. And like, there was somebody that said bad bosses will nitpick at people. My same boss that acted a fool with me flipped a lid at me one time because the comma was in the wrong place, which, to be honest, and I didn't know how to stand up for myself at that point. She put it there and I left it there and I looked at it and I was like, I think this is wrong, but like, whatever. She was like, Stephanie, this is grammatically incorrect. And I was like, bitch, it was you. Excuse my language. I didn't say that to her. I just stood there and I was like, okay, I apologize. So speaking back to attorneys. So attorneys stay in these careers because A, they owe the student loans, and B, because when you're an attorney, people think in their mind, you have money, you're rich. Most of my attorney friends don't make 6 figures. And I say 6 figures as like the starting point of made it because people think 6 figures is a lot of money. In New York, it's money, yes, of course, but New York, we have tax on tax on tax on tax on tax. So 6 figures, you're probably taking home 65, 70 maybe. It's crazy. Like New York, we have city, state, and federal tax, which is crazy. Also, if you owe 6 figures of student loans, they are automatically taking that money out of your check, unless you're like a scammer and don't like want to pay them, which I am reformed. I told you I used to ignore Sally Mae when I have the money. I know I didn't mean to curse. I'm sorry. It was her. I was so bad. She went to HR about it. Like when I tell you it was bad to the point where like sorry, side note of story time. To the point where I then went to HR, I was like, I don't understand why she's like paying so much attention to this and to you. And I was like, me neither. Like, this is odd. Like, this is fucking odd. Like, sorry, this is odd. Like, because she just was, it brought her joy to make me be like, and to like not smile. I think she really had a problem with my jovialness. It really irked the nerve out of her. I used to get to work sometimes 7:30 in the morning, like to beat her because she used to get to work really early. And I'd be there like, I'm a morning person. I wake up at 4:15. So I'd be there happy and she would just come in mad. I was like, how are you mad at 7:30? Like, I don't understand. Like, what happened? Anyways, sorry. So don't start with a high value nonsense. So yeah, so now I make the money, I'm paying off the loans because I want to get out of this. So most of my friends, I have friends, I love them, but like, it's hard sometimes. I'm like, hey, I want to talk to somebody else about paying off their student loans. They're like, I'm gonna die with this. And I'm like, we don't have to die with it. Can we get out of it? And part of it is because we owe so much. So like, even if you made the low six figures, if you owe 200 grand, but you make 105, your 105 is not that great, boo. Anywhere else, in any other context, it's a lot of money. It's not a lot of money when you owe a lot. On top of it, you have lifestyle inflation, which I think Chelsea just said that. Hold on. Let me scroll. You have lifestyle. People think, so that was my point, Charles. Sorry, I went on a tangent. People think attorneys have money. Okay, so if people think you have money, you can't roll up to work raggedy in the same clothes every other day. You know, you got to buy the stuff. You got to buy the earrings. You got to buy the dress. You have to look nice. Everybody's wearing Lanvin. You have to wear Lanvin. I've never, or maybe it's Lanvin. I don't even know how to say it. I don't own any of that. I don't know. But it keeps people trapped. You get golden handcuffs, as people say. Next thing you know, you're still 50 years old trying to transfer careers. And you hate it. And I'm terrified of that. And I don't want that to be me. So I rather live in my tiny little studio now. And any money you guys so kindly decide, like you want to give me, and any money that I make from AdSense, which I do like a rundown every month of like how much money I made, is going towards my student loans because I'm getting out of this cycle of trap. Like it's not going to work. Like, I just don't see the point of it. Let's see. Here we go. Yep. This is actually a very good point. So many people give up. I can empathize worth, but debt is not pretty. It's not. And we have, I'll say for America specifically, have normalized debt. Everybody has debt. We joke about it for years. Me and my friends, we should joke about blocking Sally Mae's number. I have blocked her. If y'all follow me on Instagram, you should follow me on Instagram at Wine and Chill. I know there's not the most content on there. I'm going to get there, I promise. But Sally Mae had the audacity. I've paid off my Sally Mae loan 2 months ago, by the way. She had the audacity to pop up in my inbox today. Send me an email. I was like, we have no business anymore, boo. Why are you talking to me? So I called her because I saw, you know what? Instagram emboldened me, but I saw somebody else because I follow a lot of like personal finance people, to keep myself motivated. And they were like, oh, when I'm bored for fun, sometimes I call Sally Mae and ask them what my balance is, knowing good and well it's zero. So I called them because for context, because this is going to sound very awful of me, I don't care. For context, Sally Mae used to call and harass me when I had no money, when I made $30,000 a year, to the point where I told the Sally Mae, they used to call 3 times a day. And I told them, I said, hey, I can't pay this. Like, I don't have any money. Like, I'm barely eating, boo. Like, I've been to people's birthday dinners and sat there and didn't eat anything because I didn't have any money. And I was like, well, I got to come to your birthday dinner. Like, and they're like, oh, do you want some? And I'm like, nope, because I know y'all are trifling. I'm going to eat one piece of edamame. And you're like, oh, Stephanie, let's split. And I'm like, split what? I have been broke. So Sally Mae kept calling me. I blocked her number. I've talked about this in some of my other videos. And so I got this customer rep was like hounding me. So I was like, listen, I don't have the money. It's like, well, we need a date to know when you're going to pay this. And I was like, well, at that point, I didn't have a job. It was like I was applying for a job. I was very stubborn. I was like, I'm going to work in-house. I'm not going to work at a law firm. I didn't have a job. And I was like, well, I don't have a job. Like I had like graduated like a month before. I was like, I literally have no money. So I don't know what to tell you. When I get a job, I'll call you back and tell you I'm happy to pay it. They're like, well, we need a date. And the person got like super aggressive with me. So I was like, you know what? Y'all done called me 11 times. And so I said, listen, I'm gonna block you. And they were like, you could block me, but we're going to call for a different number. Rude. So yes, today when Sally Mae had the audacity to email me after I paid that hoe off, I called her. I sure did. And they were like, ma'am, what are you calling about? I was like, oh, I'm calling regarding my balance and I have a question. They said, okay, we're going to transfer you. They transferred me 3 times. And I was like, oh, I'm going to sit here on this phone, watch me and y'all. So I called. I said, oh, can you read me my balance? They said, okay, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, oh, it's showing you don't have a balance. I said, that's correct. So why am I getting an email today? And the woman, you could tell she sounded stunned. And I was like, listen, y'all have harassed me for all these years. So then she was like, she caught an attitude with me. I was like, y'all the ones sending me unsolicited emails telling me I have messages about what? Our relationship is done. Our relationship is done. So I highly recommend when you pay off your student loans, call them a couple times. It made me feel good. It did. And it was petty. And I don't care. It made me really happy. So I highly recommend that. 3 times a day. They used to call me from different numbers. Like they were like a crazy like ex-boyfriend, ex-girlfriend, like just crazy. Just stalk. They just are awful. They're actually, because people have sued them already. The next Sally Mae lawsuit, I'm pretty sure I'm just gonna go and throw my hat in the ring because like they're awful. The way they train their staff to treat people are awful. Just awful. Oh, James, you should record it for YouTube next time. I really should. They're just trifling. Debt collectors are vile. Debt collectors do not have any empathy for people. And I think some of those people, like, it's their job. Like, I don't think people should call and like be an ass to the person. It's a human being on the other line. I always try to be nice until they catch the attitude with me. And I'm like, girl, like you're treating like this McDonald's sauce. Like, just get like, girl, stop this. This is just your job. Like, you're not getting any money out of me, whether or not I do anything. So yeah, I completely forgot what we were talking about. My Sally Mae rant. But yes, eventually once I get out of my debt, I feel like getting out of debt and like a money like insight, getting out of debt just gives you options. You never want to feel like you have to do something like that you don't like want to do. Like some days it would be nice to just be like, listen, I don't want to be bothered. I don't want to feel like the post office. Legal is like the post office. It just keeps going. It just keeps going and going and going. And I'm like, oh, sometimes it could stop. That would be lovely. But yeah, I think we covered. I'm just sitting here. I'm like, wait, we done went on a tangent. Sally's up to her old tricks. Trying to gaslight me like I didn't pay. Sending me emails. You have a new message. Ma'am, I'm done. But yes, so I would say, oh, you guys want to know? Okay, we'll end on this note about like productivity. I see a few of you asked about like, why do I about wake up at 4 a.m. I will preface this and say I do not believe in toxic productivity. When you rest, you should rest, particularly in this place where America runs on toxic productivity, which is why I'm always like afraid of. I wanted to do a morning video. I'm like, I feel like that comes off like snobbish. Like I don't want it to come off like, I wake up so early. But I like waking up early for a few reasons. So caveat to this is and then we'll end at this, which is like such a random departure. I am a new 4 a.m. I used to wake up at 5. Which is like, people are like, that's still early. I'm like, yeah, 4 a.m. is a different ball game. I used to try it before and I was like, this is too early for me. It works now because I have incentive now. And the reason being is I am a morning person. I'm like awake in the morning. I'm happy in the morning, whatever. At nighttime, I'm kind of like, okay, I don't want to like do functional things. I just want to like relax. But I'm a gym person. Most of you, I think it was like before my channel, like actually like went somewhere and all of you found me for legal shenanigans. I lost, this will make sense in 2 seconds, so bear with me. I lost 30 pounds of weight. So college, ate all the food, was happy camper, gained all the weight, like in a short time span, like literally went to college in August, came home in Thanksgiving, and my dad was like, oh, who this? He literally looked, Jamaican parents are cruel and they're lovely, but they just say whatever they want to say. He literally looked at me and was like, I don't understand why I bought a turkey when I can just serve up your Thai. And I was like, oh, first of all, irks to you. Second of all, yeah, I had gained like 20 pounds in a span of like a couple months. Child, I was eating everything. It was great. It was lovely. Went to law school. Now I'm eating and drinking everything. Like, oh, it was great. It was lovely. And I will give myself the one delusional credit to where the weight sat in places that didn't personally make me uncomfortable, to be honest. So I was like, I don't care. I still look good. Like, I'll put a, like, what do you call it? Like not a girdle, but like a bufa on. You know what I'm saying? Thank you, Principal Pierce. Y'all treated me so nice today. I appreciate you. Like y'all give it, like I didn't care. I was like, I look great. Like it, whatever. Until I started to care in law school when I'm 5'2". So I was like, ooh, boo-boo. I probably weighed 170 pounds. And I say probably because I didn't have the heart in myself. I went away to college, I weighed 125. So this is a span of like 7 years. I've gained a bunch of weight. The majority of it I gained in college, and then law school tacked on like 10 pounds. So gained a lot of weight. And so I say probably 170 because when I finally weighed myself, I was like, I'm gonna go to the gym for a week and weigh myself. And then I was like 165. So it probably was 170 to be honest. So, thank you, L. Robinson. School will make you eat. And to be honest, I didn't eat because I was stressed. I ate because I was happy. I was so happy. I had unlimited meal plan when I was in college. The school, whatever dining used to close at, I believe it closed at 12 o'clock. I lived next door to it. At 11:50 on the dot, me and my roommates would go down and I would get peach cobbler, apple cobbler, like in a cup. And then I would put ice cream on top of it. Listen, this is why you shouldn't restrict your kids too much because they will go off to college and do nonsense. I was like, this is fucking great. Free food is a mood. Yeah, that was like my dad made sure because I was the first in my family to go straight to college. So he didn't know. He got me unlimited meal plan. Honey, I was in there living my best life. It was great. It was great. So yeah, I got gained a lot of weight. On my small frame, it was very uncomfortable. By the time I got to law school, I was like, ooh, boo. Like I had sprained my ankles, but it was. I was like, okay, I'm gonna go to the gym. I've always loved the gym. So I would work out, but I would eat nonsense, eat nonstop, do nonsense. So then I sprained my ankle running to the gym. And I was like, dang, it's like not healing. Yeah, it's not healing, girl. It's too much weight on your short body. Okay, I'm going to lose the weight. So I lost 30 pounds. So when I was losing weight, going to the gym, like learning how to go to the gym, it took me about 2 years. And I was like, oh, I feel good. Like I would say I don't even feel like myself because I didn't really have muscle before. I felt like a different person. I was like, oh, I have muscle. I want to compete in a bodybuilding competition. I had always secretly wanted to do it. Okay, cool. Now I have a gym habit. I know how to do these things. If any of you have gone to the gym, which I'm sure most of you have, when you go to the gym at like a normal time, post 7 o'clock, people are in there doing nonsense. I have seen people in Planet Fitness eating pizza on the treadmill. Pizza. They're literally on the treadmill and they're eating pizza. So how do you solve for that? You wake up early. The early you get, then you can go and not be bothered with the fools. So then I just started going earlier and earlier because I'm like, I'm already naturally awake. Like I wake up and I'm like hungry. I don't sleep much. So I wake up which is not a good or bad thing. I've noticed like different people sleep different ways. I just never been like somebody to sleep that long. I sleep like 5-6 hours. Like 5. So I was like, okay, the earlier I go, then I can avoid these people eating pizza on the treadmill. So then I just set a habit like, okay, well, I'm going to, get on the listen, because Planet Fitness used to give pizza out. I was like, we're at a gym. Like, I'm confused. I'm in confusion. So then I was like, okay, I'll wake up early and not to sit in my bed, but like, I'll just go to the gym. So that created that habit. I did a bodybuilding competition 2 years ago now, because last year was wasted. It was great. Bodybuilding is like super intense. Yep, I did the whole thing, bikini, all of that. It was great. Like, some of my friends came, my boyfriend came. It was so much fun and was such a sense of accomplishment for me to be like, oh, look, I did that. 15 weeks of like super intense training. So then I had to do 2 days. So like when you work out twice a day, which it was only for competition. That's not sustainable. I don't want to preach like extensive productivity and nonsense to people because that's wrong. But it was something I wanted to do for myself. So when you go to the gym twice a day, you have to like, what time are you going to go? Like, you're going to go at a time that like, okay, I'll go super early in the morning, then I'll go after work. Like, I can't be in the gym for 3 hours. I work full time and like, I work stupid hours at my attorney. Like, okay, so I go in the morning. So I used to go like 5:30, 6 o'clock, whatever. So now my gym, I live in Brooklyn. I go to, it's not like any like Equinox expensive gym because I'm cheap, paying off my student loans. Listen, come 6 o'clock, people are in there acting a fool. They're acting a fool. Like, like I complain about this all the time. Like, listen, older men in the gym, you don't need to be next to the young. There is so much space. It's called social distancing. Why are you next to me? Why? Why are you staring at me? Yes, I can lift more than you. Yes. I can lift 245 pounds deadlift. Like, I'm pretty strong. I also did powerlifting competition. They just want to like do weird stuff and like bother people. You know who's not bothering anybody? Generally at 5 o'clock, less people bothering you. So I wake up really early and then I do that. So I have gained a little COVID weight, which needs to come off. But yeah, so that has incentivized me to wake up. So that is one part of the waking up super early. The other reason is because it's nice. Like, so I'm usually going to the gym like 6:30, depending on the day, what I did, because the gym opens at 5. It's nice because like work doesn't start till 9. Like these days I try to like log in like 8:39, like as close as possible versus like 7:30, which I used to do back in the day. I'm like, that's not the hours you paid me for. But it's nice to have free time. I'm like, oh, good. I could take a bath. I could light a candle. Like I could do meal prep. It's nice to have time for yourself. Nobody else is awake. Chelsea will attest to this. Sometimes like they'll text super late at night, like when I'm finally like and I'm asleep. So then I just answer them in the morning and I can answer like our group message, but nobody's going to answer back. So it's just kind of nice. You have your me time because I realize like we're so busy that there's so little me time in life, and that's coming from me who does not have children yet, hopefully one day. Like what I think it's good to kind of set those habits. I know some people are not morning people, so I want to say that this is not to shame you or make you feel like being a morning person. However, there are less people awake in the morning than there are late at night. There are more night people in the world. So if you feel like you're lacking control in your life, like you just want some time to yourself, child, ain't nobody up at 5 o'clock, just me. And I won't bother you, I promise. There's less people awake. It's less people awake. I just have so much more clarity in the morning. Like, could sit there, I could journal, I could write my chicken scratch in my planner. I can catch up on my YouTube videos that I want to watch. It's just very nice. So I would say if you're trying to start waking up early and that's not your natural setting, just try like 30 minutes. That's why I finally got to 4 o'clock. Because naturally, even on a Saturday, I'll wake up at 6. The alarm, 5 o'clock was an alarm. Like alarm has to wake me up. My body's not waking up till 6. 4 o'clock is definitely alarm. And set like 2. So, or 3, depending on how aggressive you want to be. So I would say when you do that, like what I do when I first started like the 4 o'clock, honestly, it's not 4 o'clock. I tried 4. Didn't work. I set a 4 and a 4:15. By 4:15, I get up. So now I just set the 4:15 because I'm like, oh, what's the waste of time? Just take the 15 minutes, Stephanie. So the 4:15, to be very honest, set like, say the time is like, okay, you usually wake up at 7:30. You want to start waking up at 6. Set a 6, a 6:10, a 6:15. It will go off so many times. It will annoy the crap out of you to wake up. Also, this is going to sound crazy, so please don't hurt yourself. Put the phone far from you. And if you just roll out of the bed, your natural instinct will be to catch yourself. Which is what I did a bunch of times. I was like, well, I'm just going to roll off and, we'll just kind of fall. So you'll kind of do that. My mom gets up that early and she's trying to listen. Older people, I used to live with my grandparents. They are awake. Blood honey, 1:46 in the morning. Yes, you should probably go to bed. So do I drink coffee? Yes, I do. I go through periods where I don't. So if you drink, I drink like protein shakes in the morning, but I notice that whenever I drink, like I always put spinach in my protein shake. You're not going to taste it if you put fruit in there. And fresh fruit, frozen fruit won't do it. But like fresh fruit, sometimes, then I like don't need the coffee, but I only drink 1 a day. I have now my protein powder is protein and cold brew to just kill the bird with 1 stone. But yeah, so you can definitely do it. You can definitely do it. So, but yeah, so that sounds good. But yeah, so thank you guys. This was lovely. I hope it's supposed to be warm in New York, hopefully. So thank you guys for tuning in. I really appreciate you. And I think this was good. It was cathartic. We all let it out. And don't worry, it takes, just so I preface, because I did promise that I would like delete out the people calling out their specific bosses. Just press, what am I saying? English. YouTube doesn't allow me to change anything for like 6-10 hours. So once it allows me to edit it, I'll just edit out that stuff. So don't worry, booze. But yeah. Coffee to me used to taste awful until I worked at Starbucks. That was my first job. Starbucks in a Target. Sometimes, but I also try not to eat a lot of sugar. If you put almond milk in it, it doesn't taste so bad. Depends, but yeah. Thank you guys. I appreciate you. And I hope all of you guys have a wonderful, have a wonderful weekend full of some fun. If you're in New York, things are open. stay 6 feet from people, please, child. Put your mask on. Do all those things. So have a wonderful evening. Thank you, everyone. Have a good weekend.